sun, don't take it all away from me. Save some space for me, I'm coming along. Desert sun, could you back it off a few degrees? I'll do anything you please, and then some. Yeah, I thought I could alter time and space, entertain the human race, and do it on my own. No matter where I thought that I should be, you took creative liberty and put me where I belong. It's where I belong, I'm where I belong. Where I belong, where I belong. Desert sun, could you shed a little certainty? You got me on my knees, singing along. Desert sun, you could leave me here with not a thing, then teach me everything all at once. Yeah, I thought I could alter time and space, entertain the human race, and do it on my own. No matter where I thought that I should be, you took creative liberty and put me where I belong. It's where I belong, I'm where I belong. You destroy everything and throw away the key, I'll count it as a loss. Yeah, ooh, I'm trying not to fear your heat, accepting what I see is where I belong. It's where I belong, I'm where I belong. Where I belong, where I belong. It's where I belong, where I belong. I'm where I belong, where I belong.
All right, hey, that
Yo.
was great. We've got Verskotzi in.
Thanks, man.
Welcome. Thanks for being
you.
here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I know it came together last minute, but I'm glad it worked.
Yeah.
For
oh
sure.
yeah. So yeah, you're in town
Yeah,
from LA,
yeah,
back in your old stomping grounds.
yes.
Yeah. Tell me more. Like, so you're from here originally?
Yep. I'm from New Ulm, Minnesota originally, so like
That's like small town.
very small town. So
Yeah.
down south. But then I was in Minneapolis for school for college. I went to the U of M. Actually, because I'm assuming a lot of Minnesota folks are listening or part of this crowd that we're talking to. I went to Gustavus for a semester actually in St. Peter. So like local
yeah.
Minnesotans will know.
Oh yeah.
I went to Gustavus for a music scholarship, and I was there for a semester, and like it was truly some of the best like academia I've ever experienced. But I went from New Ulm, which is a small town, to St. Peter, which is an even smaller town, and I was like, and in my parents' defense, they definitely were like, before I made my final decision in high school, they were like, "Are you sure you want to go to, like, we know you like this place, but like it's really small." And I was like, "No, like I want." Man, they were right. So like within like a few months, I was like, "Oh no, I need to transfer to the U of M." And I was working with producer Isaac Burkhart at the time on my early stuff. And shouts out to Isaac, Minneapolis. He's in Nashville now.
He was just here a few days ago.
Awesome.
We were just hanging out.
So he and I just missed each other. Man, that's hilarious. Yeah. We were well, Isaac, we'll hook up soon. But no, I was working with him a ton, and like I was driving up to Minneapolis every weekend from Gustavus, and it just got to the point where I was like, I need to just be in Minneapolis. And so it was when I got here that I really started my solo project, Verskotzi, because I had been in a band, and we got pretty far as a band and done like Warped Tour, and you know, like we were touring and recording, and like we were one of those bands where it was like we had a very business system worked out, and it was like all four of us had like roles, and but it just kind of got to a point where, you know, it was time to venture out of that, and then starting my solo project in Minneapolis was like the start of what has now become like a 12-year and counting career. So yeah, man.
Remind me of your early record names.
So the first release ever as Verskotzi was a 5-song EP called Lesson Learned, and that was Isaac and I did it at the studio over it's like technically North Minneapolis, I guess. And we called it very different things all the time, but I think we ended up calling it the boiler room or something. Like it was like this huge like warehousey space. But we did that EP in 2010 into 2011, and I did like my album release show at the Fine Line up the street.
Oh yeah.
But it was crazy that release. Every song on that album, more Minneapolis shouts out, Tinderbox Music and Chased by Flying Monkeys Music, Grant Flesland and Krista Valinsky's, and Krista, who still does my PR now. They ran with that EP, and got all the songs placed in all these different shows and commercials and stuff. And that's when I really started seeing like, oh, like, you know, the ways that royalties work, right? Yep. And so that was the first release, and that really opened my eyes to like the business side of things more. It was funny actually when they got the first placement. I remember Krista and Grant kind of, you know, it's always a rush because it's like, oh, we got this placement, we need to like get the paperwork cleared, and they were like, what's your ASCAP, like what's your PRO, or what was your PRO is what they asked, and I was like, what's PRO? Like, so I remember like searching, and I was just like, you know, music publishing PRO, and the first thing that came up was ASCAP, and I was just like, click, and I remember I had to call my dad because it was like $70 to like, I was just broke as hell, college kid. I remember I had to ask my dad, I was like, I need money to get my ASCAP account, so my dad like gave me money.
That's amazing.
To get my PRO account, and now I've been with ASCAP for like 12 years. So, But anyway, so that was a whole winding road, and but then from there, the next album, my first full-length album was Lemon Heart.
Okay, yeah. Dude, that's the one. I remember one of my friends showed me that probably not too long after it came out.
That's crazy.
And I was like, this is sick.
Isaac and I, that is like a core memory. And yeah, thanks for saying kind things about it. That was such a time capsule, and like I've written about that time in my songs a few times now, where it's just like there was something so special that and I don't say this like I never want to say like nothing will ever happen again, but it's just like that exact situation will never happen again, and Isaac and I look back at it so fondly, and it was like I had just gone through a horrible breakup and like was just really just vulnerable and open, and he and I's friendship had really like reached this like apex of like closeness, but it was like our working relationship had seasoned so much, and it's like you just really, really hear it in that. And I remember being like, I think there were times where I was like feeling like I'm probably like staying around too long because I like didn't want to be alone. Like I was so afraid of being alone because like the breakup was so gnarly, and like I was so just like raw, and I was like, I didn't want the time alone to myself, so I was just like at the studio with him all the time.
That's great.
But then when I was home, I was writing and, you know, just like really getting it out. But yeah, that album is like, it's really special. But so that was the first full length, and then we did an EP called Waving, which is like a 3-song thing. That was kind of like sort of what became a bit of a in my artist career in particular, that sort of started like, you know, we all kind of journey off in sound and things, but it kind of turned into what I've sort of come to identify as a bit of an identity crisis, where it was like, I think I started to lean into more like electronic stuff that I was really, really into as a listener. But I was learning that young artist lesson that just because you like something and you're really getting into something, it doesn't mean that that's what you have to be as an artist.
Yep.
And that's a tough one.
I like that.
Yeah. And so because I'm a producer too, and it's like, and that was also when I started to learn production more, because speaking of the licensing stuff, when I first started understanding like, oh, like, you know, this is how you can make money in music in a different way outside of shows and whatnot. I got a job in Minneapolis at a place called Egg Music. There's a commercial music house, and they're actually no longer, the company sold in the last few years, but I heard about it through ad club at the U of M. I was in ad school, and I ended up going over there and giving them my EP as my resume. I was like, hey, this is being used on TV a bunch, so like it speaks for itself. And I was an intern there for a while, but then I got hired, and that's when I really started learning production. But it was like, I think I had gotten, and this is, you know, I'm not like trying to toot my own horn here, but it's like I had gotten so good at like learning how to make so many different kinds of music through the commercial composing side of things.
Oh yeah.
That then I started to understand like, oh, like when I'm listening to, I don't know, like Lord or something at that time, like 2014 or whatever, I was like, oh, like I want to be that then. But it's like, well, just because you can make that, it doesn't mean that that's your artist identity. So then it was, but at the time too, I wasn't working with other artists because now I'm producing and co-writing with a ton of artists in LA, and it's like, but that's where I'm able to like kind of get those kicks, if you will, where I'm like, I love pop, I love country, I love hip hop, I love trap, but I'm not those things.
Yeah.
So now I'm able to do that with others. But so all that to say is like the Waving EP started this journey that then eventually led to an album that is one that I'm still so proud of, but it's like when I listen to it, I'm like, whoa, like that was where I completely had sort of like hit the guardrail of like, this is not necessarily like who I am. But the album was called Number 90. It's my second full length, and that album, it's like, it's so special because it encapsulated and captured a moment in time where my father-in-law was battling pancreatic cancer, and he's a pastor. He survived, which is a miracle. But I ended up kind of making that album to capture his essence. So I was like sampling him, like when he was preaching and singing and talking and praying. I was taking just voice memos and then going home and like composing this whole thing around it, and that became that album. But it was like, when I listen to it now, I'm like, it was so I was so outside of myself in a way that it's like when I listen to it, I don't even remember how it got made. And I was also kind of in a dark time in life. So yeah, but then through the byways of whatnot, and then moving to LA and learning those lessons of like, oh, like this isn't who I am, but like, and then I kind of started getting back into that place, and Shirring being my third full length album that I put out last year. And I say it in the vinyl like liner and everything, and I've, you know, on socials and things I've talked about this a lot, but it's like that album truly is and always will represent like me getting back to my center.
Yeah.
Artistically, sonically, but also like in 2020 I made the decision to get sober, and then so now that's coming up on 5 years of sobriety, and then it also very quickly led to this very big spiritual transformation that involved like a lot of meditation and different like esoteric practices and research. And so it's like that's all captured in that album, but it's like that has then just become like this whole new just like life essentially. And so but so Shirring's the third full length, and then I put out a few EPs in between that too, because I did like this whole arc series, like arc 1 through 3, and that was sort of where when I started doing those EPs, I like made the conscious decision, because this was over the pandemic when you know, everything was shut down. I wasn't collaborating with people anymore, and my artist project had really fallen off. Like I had just put so much more effort and time into producing for others. But then naturally when you're not getting together with people, I'm like, there was actually a moment where I was like, oh, what am I going to do? But it was like me asking that question showed me how removed from myself I had become in the co-writing production game, where I was like, what am I going to do? It's like all I've ever known how to do is make music by myself. So it's like I needed to really be like, okay. So I took a really hard look at like where I had gotten and what had been going on, and then I was like, I'm going to start drawing a line in the sand back to what I know is my essence, which it's like folk and rock music. It's like that's, as an artist, that's like the Lemonheart album. It's like there was such a coming home in that record that we captured that. There's just part of me that's like, you know, what's like the price that you pay in like exploring artistically, and it's like ultimately it's all good, but when you I think it's just about trusting that intuition, because it's like I've always known like when I sing and write and play those songs, it's like I feel fully alive in a way. So yeah. Anyway, it's a very long answer.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love it, and I mean I can relate with you on, I mean, a number of pieces, like the production music thing. Yeah, you know, I still do that sometimes.
Yeah.
And just like a great way to just get to where it's just like, I don't know, when we're artists, we are so precious with our ideas in our head, but if it's like a production album and it's like, I need 12 pop songs by next week, it's just like, okay, blah, 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 and it just kind of teaches you and it trains you to just create.
Yeah,
you know? And then even like, I mean, like to your record about like your father-in-law, like I see like my different records and like even just like sampling like my daughter's footsteps when she was little, or you know, just like the little touches that you can put into something that like, I don't know, sound is so cool because it can just take you back there. And just like it's such a powerful way, you know. And I mean I totally hear you on the like, yes, we're so often chasing like whatever we think is this cool new thing, but it's just like, maybe that's not for me though. You know,
right?
So,
and still make it, you know, because it's like you're every time you make something, you're learning inadvertently like how something else was made or how someone else approached something, but then like you're always going to pick something up every time you. I think finishing songs is important, right? It's like we start a lot of things, but it's like finishing ideas, even if they end up not being for anything. It's like you're still learning all the way to the end. Like, I use this example a lot. It's like, even if you just learned how to finally use that compressor, you know what I mean? It's just like, at least you're like, oh, well, now I got it. You know, now I figured that out. So like,
and like it's obviously part of the journey, and it's also like, I mean, it's the stupid thing, like the journey is the thing, like that, you know, it's like
that's the Steve Jobs notion. The journey is the reward.
So it's like, cool, I made this song that nobody's gonna listen to, but it like just think about all the other ways that I could have spent that time that probably would not have been as life-giving. You know, like that is ultimately why we do what we do. So then I guess my next question would just be, because I feel similarly, it's just like, okay, as somebody who works in the industry but who is also an artist, it's just like, it's just hard because it's like, I mean, it's like, obviously you got to balance stuff, but it's like, so I guess personally, like I find so much joy in all the studio stuff, you know, like that's, and that is ultimately like why I do this, but also like there are a lot of people who like that is their thing, and like they don't, not that they don't have a voice of their own, but like they don't have their creative baby. And so, but like, I don't know, how do you make time for both? Because you got to do one to support the other. You know, but like, I mean, I've just been in a season where it's like, getting this studio all up and running,
and congrats,
just
by the
like,
way. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's so cool.
Thanks. It's just like, shoot, I don't know if I'm not going to take time to write music right now. Like, my studio rent is due, and you know, it's just like but it's just like, the long game is, okay, having your artistry, that's what gets people bought into you. I think about everybody I've worked with, 99% of them are there because it's like, I've listened to your music and I like it. You know, so like,
for sure.
So it does have payoff, actually, professionally and financially.
Of course.
But it's like, but also it's like, okay, I do this for me. Because if I don't, I'm gonna lose my freaking mind.
No, you lose your sense of self in in what it is, which is the art creating process and why we started this madness in the first place.
Right. So how do you keep that balance? How do you keep the spark alive of, creating? Yeah,
it's this is the $1 trillion question, I think. And it's sort of what I was alluding to before with like the like in 2020, I really hit a place where I realized that I had pretty much skewed my artist and then producer co-writer balance from like when I moved to LA, it was like 90 artists, 10 co-writer producer.
Yep.
And by the pandemic, which that was because I moved to LA in 2017.
Yeah.
3 years had gone by. It had gone pretty much 95-5, like way out of balance. And I had partied with my manager. I had signed a publishing deal, and so like and I'm getting to your answer, but just the context, like I signed a pub deal in 2019, but like 2017, 2018, leading up to 2019, it was like I was, we were feeling each other out, the publisher and I, and we were like doing all kinds of stuff, and it was awesome. And that was one of the reasons I moved to LA. It was like I really did want to round out my career in that way and start producing for others more and start co-writing with other people. And but I didn't understand the delicacy of that balance. And two, it was like in those first years, it's like my whole thing was like I'm going to say yes to every opportunity I get. And I don't think I understood how many opportunities were about to come to me, which is such a blessing, and I'm like eternally grateful for it. And at the same time, I wasn't prepared for sort of like it was just kind of happening to me. And it was this wave that was just kind of washing over me. And it wasn't until the world shut down and I was left to my own devices again, and then realized, like from a metric standpoint, it was like my Spotify had just done this, and my, I just wasn't doing anything for my artist self. And then I realized like, oh, there's kind of like a big gaping hole in my sense of creativity because I wasn't filling that. So that balance, I think, it's so tough because, like you say, it's like your rent is due. And a lot of times your artist project isn't paying the bills, and sometimes it is. It's like syncs and shows with nice advances and things. It's like we get those and that's great and you hold on to it, and it's like, but typically you're getting paid more frequently by production fees, royalties from syncs, and like composing work, right? So I think for me it's like I've really learned to get more particular about what I'm saying yes to when it comes to production, co-writes, composing work. I think over time you kind of gain a sense of experience and wisdom in the sense of like you can kind of see where something's going to go. You kind of get a feel of the landscape from like whether it's a bid for a job, like a creative brief, an artist that has something they want you to work on. You kind of get a feel earlier on like this will probably make it through the finish line, or like I have a pretty good sense of like how I could accomplish this, or knowing I'm probably not the right fit for this, even though they're like an artist could be super buzzy and super exciting, or there's something going on, but it's like if you look at it and really ask yourself, am I the right person for this? I think you have to start to get better at using that intuition like a scalpel and being able to cut through like, should I actually be taking this on? Should I be making time for this? And like, and then within the artist landscape, it's like I always try to have at least one full day every week where it's like I'm not doing anything but my artist project. And because now I've got that balance back to more like 50-50. Because the production co-writing side, it's like I was in that publishing deal for 6 years. That deal just ended this year, and it was, truly some of the most exciting, rewarding, proud moments of my career so far, where it was like the publisher and I, Angry Mob Music, they were so great, and like they were completely behind me the whole time, and it was like they were Team Verskotzi, flew me around the world, like won awards, all kinds of syncs and cuts and all the things, and it was like that really like took my career to another level, and that was the point of working with them. But then it was like what I signed a record deal then too, Preach Records, and Jay Cohen, who's the head of that label, he and then the head of Angry Mob, Mark Caruso, they both have a very similar like ethos behind this. They're like, because they, I was very open with them, especially when I was struggling to find that balance. Like, because it's like the label, they're like, okay, you're the artist, do your artist thing. And the publisher, it's like they're supporting me as an artist, but of course they're like, you're a writer, so it's like we want you to write and produce for other people, and it's like fill the catalog with a diverse group of music. It was like Mark and Jay both kind of said, it's like, if you get a win as a producer and a co-writer, it's like that wave and rising tide also, what is the saying, rising tide raises all ships.
Yep.
So it's like inevitably your artist profile will raise with that then. Or if you have a big artist moment, it's like people are going to come to you then, and because this happens all the time where people are like, oh, I love your artist project, and this is how Angry Mob would pitch me a lot too. Is like, he produces his own stuff, and then it's like, listen to that, and it's like, oh, I really like that, can you do that for me? Or like something like that. So it's like both of them feed each other, and I think that's the important thing to remember, is that just because you might be having to focus a lot on one thing and then you're maybe missing some of the other, it's like it's all in this closed loop, endless circle of it being, because then, like we were saying before, you might work on a song that never sees the light of day, but as long as you figured out how to use that compressor, it's like you're going to be learning. When I work with other artists as a producer, I always come out of the session learning how to be a better artist myself from them, because you hear, as you know, it's like most sessions start with like an hour of just talking about the industry, talking about life, talking about what we're going through, but a lot of times it revolves around music industry drama and hardships, and a lot of times I hear artists say things where I'm like, oh man, I'm experiencing that in my own way, but I've never heard it said that way, or like I've never thought about it that way. Or you go, whoa, like they're going through something like way more gnarly than I'm going through right now, and then so your empathy kicks in. But it's like, I think if you're in this position of doing both, where you're a producer and a writer, composer, and an artist, it's like lean into the collaboration where you're not the main thing, because you're gonna learn how to be a better artist yourself. But then also, like, it's so important to be able to like step behind I always say, like, as a producer, I'm behind the curtain, I'm Oz, right? It's like I'm able to kind of see the whole thing and have more objective takes on things, because the artist, it's like our nose is against the wall, and it's just like, oh my god, it's the most precious thing. If this lyric isn't perfect, if this thing isn't perfect, and it's like, as a producer, you're able to go, I get it, and at the same time, it's like, let's maybe take a step to the right and not focus on this for a minute. And when I'm doing it myself, I'm kind of caught in this little vortex of overthinking, but then I'm able to go, no, imagine that this isn't your project. How would you approach the situation? So I don't know if that answers the question. It's a really tough answer, but like, I think balancing between making sure you have time for your artist thing every week, and then prioritizing based on your experience of trying to get a good idea of like, you can kind of see how something's going to turn out. So
that's great.
That's
great, man. Oh man,
I could talk about this all day.
Oh
so I'm trying to give shorter answers.
No, you're good. Okay, I'm gonna wrap us up. I feel like we could have just kept going for a long time.
Agreed.
So there's more that I would want to ask you, but well, dude, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Great song, great record.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excited for new stuff coming down the pipeline.
Working on the next album now.
Sweet.
So 4th album in the works, and all kinds of stuff. I'm gonna be doing singles the rest of the year, and just kind of like rolling stuff out and seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, and just trying not to be so precious. Always like continuing to try and not be as precious with everything, and just put it out, see what happens, and go from there. But thank you for your time and having me, and making this work.
Totally.
But and we've got to do a session here soon.
Man.
This place is awesome. For sure.
Awesome.
Great.
Well,
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Peace.
Peace, y'all.